Captain Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her command table, watching as red warning symbols spread across the galactic map like a disease. Each symbol represented a hostile fleet, and there were hundreds of them. The bridge of the UES Resilience hummed with nervous energy as her crew processed the impossible data streaming in from their deep space sensors. Captain, we're receiving simultaneous declarations of war from the Zephyrian Empire, the Crystalline Collective, the Void Hunters, and Communications Officer Martinez paused, his face pale. Ma'am, it's everyone. Every major power in the galaxy just declared war on humanity. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah had been a naval officer for 23 years, had fought pirates and rogue AI fleets, had even survived the border wars with the hegemony. But this was different. This was the entire galaxy turning against one species. What's our current position? She asked, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. We're 3 light-years from the Kepler station, Captain. But according to these readings, enemy fleets are already moving to blockade every human system, replied Navigation Officer Torres. Sarah walked to the viewport and gazed out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of alien minds had simultaneously decided that humanity needed to be destroyed. The question was why. They had been part of the Galactic Council for over a century, had contributed to countless scientific advances, had even helped broker peace between warring species. Yet here they were, facing annihilation. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Martinez announced. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Sarah could see the organized chaos of the command center, officers rushing between stations as alarms blared in the background. Captain Chen, I'm sure you've seen the reports. As of 14 minutes ago, every alien civilization in the galaxy has declared war on humanity. Their fleets are already moving toward our systems. We estimate first contact in 72 hours. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Sir, what are our orders? Survive, Captain. Whatever it takes, humanity survives. We're implementing Protocol 7 across all human space. Every ship, every station, every colony is now on full war footing. But Chen, Harrison's expression grew grim. Intelligence suggests this isn't just conquest. The intercepted communications are talking about extermination, complete eradication of our species. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing fear and confusion in their faces. These were good people, trained professionals who had volunteered to serve humanity among the stars. They didn't deserve this. Torres, set course for the Arcturus colony. Best possible speed. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. I won't lie to you. We're facing something unprecedented. But we're human. And humans have one thing that apparently scares the rest of the galaxy enough to unite against us. What's that, Captain? Asked Ensign Park. Barely old enough to be out of the academy. We don't give up. Ever. When the universe pushes us down, we get back up and push harder. Today, the galaxy declared war on humanity. They're about to learn what that really means. The Resilience turned toward distant stars, its engines burning bright against the cosmic darkness. Across human space, similar scenes played out as Earth's children received the news that would change everything. In the outer colonies, miners and farmers looked up at alien skies and wondered if they'd live to see another sunrise. On Mars, the great shipyards began working around the clock, building vessels of war with desperate efficiency. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in her laboratory on Titan Station, watching the news feeds with growing horror. As head of the Human Defense Initiative's Theoretical Weapons Division, she had always known this day might come. The galaxy had never fully trusted humanity's rapid expansion and technological innovation, but she had hoped their contributions to galactic civilization would be enough to maintain peace. Her assistant, Dr. Kim, burst through the laboratory doors holding a data pad. Elena, you need to see this. The preliminary analysis of the alien communications is complete. Elena took the pad and read quickly, her expression darkening with each line. The aliens weren't just declaring war. They were coordinating the complete destruction of human civilization because they had discovered something that terrified them. They know about the project, she whispered. For 3 years, Elena's team had been working on theoretical faster-than-light communication, something that would give humanity an unprecedented advantage in space warfare. The aliens had somehow learned of their research and decided that such technology in human hands represented an existential threat to galactic order. Dr. Vasquez. Incoming priority message from Earth Command, announced the station's AI. The message was brief but clear. All research facilities were to accelerate their programs immediately. Whatever weapons, defenses, or technologies they had been developing needed to be ready for deployment as soon as possible. The survival of humanity might depend on innovations that were still in the theoretical stage. Elena looked out at Saturn's rings, thinking about her daughter back on Earth, about the billions of humans scattered across dozens of worlds, all now facing extinction, because they had dared to reach for the stars and dream of something better. Kim, activate all research protocols. Contact every team leader. As of right now, we're not just scientists anymore. We're humanity's last hope for survival. Across the galaxy, alien fleets moved with grim purpose toward human space. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts, massive vessels that had crushed rebellions for 1,000 years. The crystalline collective's geometric ships that could reshape reality itself. The Void Hunters' biomechanical monstrosities that fed on the life force of entire worlds. And dozens of other species, each bringing their own unique methods of warfare to bear against humanity. They expected to find a young species cowering in terror, begging for mercy that would never come. Instead, they would discover something that had never existed before in galactic history. A species that grew stronger when faced with extinction, that turned desperation into innovation, and that absolutely refused to go quietly into the dark. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with growing unease as the first wave of alien ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The Earth defense grid had been hastily reinforced over the past 72 hours, but everyone knew it wouldn't be enough against the combined might of galactic civilization. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. Multiple signatures, reported sensor operator Phillips from her station aboard the orbital defense platform Hadrian's Wall. Computer estimates over 3,000 vessels. Sir, Jake had fought in border skirmishes before, but those had involved maybe a dozen ships on each side. 3,000 was beyond anything humanity had ever faced. The entire Earth defense fleet consisted of only 800 ships, and many of those were patrol craft barely larger than shuttles. Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet, Phillips announced. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being Jake had never seen before. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, with crystalline features that seemed to shift and change as it spoke. Its voice resonated with harmonics that made the bridge equipment vibrate. Humans of Earth, I am High Admiral Zextherian of the Crystalline Collective. You have been found guilty of possessing technology that threatens the natural order of the galaxy. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift. Jake opened a channel back to the alien fleet. This is Lieutenant Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Grid. We reject your demands. If you want Earth, you'll have to come and take it. The alien's crystalline features hardened. Your defiance only prolongs the inevitable. Your species will be extinct within the solar day. The transmission ended and Jake turned to his crew. They were young, most of them barely out of training. But they had volunteered to stand between Earth and annihilation, and that meant something. All stations, battle stations, target the lead ships and prepare to show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity. The first exchange of fire lit up the void between Earth and Mars. Human, kinetic rounds and energy beams lanced out toward the alien formation, while return fire painted space with exotic energies that disrupted local reality. The defense platforms had been designed to stop pirates and raiders, not fleets that could reshape matter at the molecular level. Within minutes, Jake watched half his fellow platforms die in spectacular explosions. The aliens' technology was simply too advanced, too alien for human weapons to counter effectively. But something strange was happening. The alien advance had slowed and their formation was becoming ragged. Phillips, are you seeing this? Their ships are having trouble maintaining formation. Yes, sir. It's almost like they're not used to working together. Each species seems to be using completely different tactical doctrines. Jake realized that humanity might have accidentally discovered the alien coalition's greatest weakness. These species had united against a common enemy, but they had no experience fighting as a unified force. The Crystalline Collective's reality-warping attacks were interfering with the Void Hunters' bioship navigation. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts kept changing course to avoid friendly fire from species whose weapons they didn't understand. All remaining platforms concentrate fire on the gaps in their formation. make them choose between advancing and maintaining unit cohesion. The human counterattack was desperate but effective. Jake watched as alien ships collided with each other, their different propulsion systems creating gravitational anomalies that tore holes in space itself. The galaxy's greatest military powers were discovering that they had never learned to fight as one. On Mars, General Patricia Silva stood in the command bunker beneath Olympus Mons, coordinating the defense of humanity's first colony. The red planet had been transformed over the past century into a fortress world, its cities built into vast underground networks that could survive anything short of planetary bombardment. "General, we're receiving fragmentary reports from the outer colonies," reported Colonel Williams. "The aliens are hitting everything simultaneously, but their attacks are uncoordinated. Proxima Centauri managed to destroy an entire hegemony strike force by luring them into the system's asteroid belt." Silva nodded grimly. "They're making the same mistake everyone makes when fighting humans. They're assuming we'll fight like civilized species following established rules of warfare." "Ma'am, Williams, humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We know every dirty trick, every desperate gambit, every way to turn weakness into strength. These aliens have been at peace with each other for millennia. They've forgotten what war really means." On the surface above them, the first alien dropships were landing near New Shanghai. The city's population had already evacuated to the underground shelters, leaving behind automated defenses and a very unpleasant surprise for the invaders. The Zephyrian ground forces moved through the empty streets with confidence, their powered armor gleaming in the Martian sunlight. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics, overwhelming firepower followed by systematic occupation. But as they reached the city center, every building around them simultaneously exploded. The humans had evacuated the population but left behind enough explosives to level several city blocks. The Zephyrian commander had never encountered a species willing to destroy their own infrastructure rather than let it fall into enemy hands. The concept was alien to creatures, who viewed war as a civilized endeavor with rules and limitations. Similar scenes played out across human space as Earth's children demonstrated that they were very different from any species the galaxy had encountered before. On Kepler Station, human defenders triggered a cascade failure in the fusion reactors rather than surrender, taking 3 alien cruisers with them. The mining colony on Vega's world collapsed their entire tunnel network, burying the invading force under billions of tons of rock. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked frantically in her laboratory as Titan Station shuddered under alien bombardment. Her faster-than-light communication project was almost ready, but she needed more time. The station's defenses were failing, and enemy boarding parties would reach her lab within the hour. "Dr. Vasquez, we have to evacuate," urged Dr. Kim as another explosion rocked the station. "No," Elena replied firmly. "If we can get this working, we can coordinate human resistance across the entire galaxy instantly. No more delays in communication, no more fighting blind." She activated the prototype transmitter, sending a simple message to the device's twin on Earth. "Humanity endures." The response came back instantaneously, faster than light itself. "Humanity fights." Elena smiled as alien soldiers began cutting through her laboratory door. She had just given humanity something the galaxy had never seen: perfect coordination across interstellar distances. The aliens thought they were fighting scattered human colonies. They were about to discover they had awakened something far more dangerous. As the laboratory door fell and crystalline warriors poured through the breach, Elena activated the device's self-destruct sequence. The explosion consumed the entire research section of Titan Station, but not before the FTL communication technology transmitted itself to every human research facility in the galaxy. The war had lasted 3 days, and humanity was losing badly. But they were learning, adapting, and doing what humans had always done when faced with extinction. They were getting creative. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the rebuilt command center on Luna Base, watching status reports flow in through Dr. Vasquez's revolutionary communication network. What he saw both terrified and amazed him. Humanity was losing the war by every conventional measure, but they were doing something unprecedented in galactic history. They were learning faster than their enemies could adapt. "Admiral, priority transmission from Captain Rodriguez on the Damascus," announced Lieutenant Foster. The screen flickered to show Captain Maria Rodriguez, her uniform torn and her face streaked with smoke. Behind her, the The bridge of her destroyer was a chaos of sparks and emergency lighting. "Admiral, we've just completed our hit-and-run attack on the hegemony supply convoy in the Tau Ceti system. 17 supply ships destroyed, but that's not the important part." Rodriguez grinned despite her dire circumstances. "Sir, they're not sharing intelligence between species. Each alien faction is fighting this war like they're the only ones involved." Webb leaned forward. "Explain." The hegemony ships were using standard patrol patterns that completely ignored crystalline collective sensor sweeps happening in the same system. When we hit them, they called for backup from their own forces only. They didn't coordinate with the Zephyrian battle group that was less than an hour away. This confirmed what human commanders had been reporting across the galaxy. The alien coalition was fracturing under the pressure of actual combat. Species that had coexisted peacefully for millennia were discovering they had no idea how to fight a war together. "Rodriguez, what's your ship's status?" "We've lost main engines and half our weapons, but we're alive. More importantly, Admiral, we've learned something crucial about their technology." The transmission quality flickered as another explosion rocked the Damascus. "Admiral, their advanced weapons require massive amounts of computational power to function. The reality warping cannons, the bioship regeneration systems, even their energy shields. But here's the thing. They're using distributed processing across their entire fleet network." Webb's eyes widened as he understood the implications. "You're saying if we disrupt their network communications, their most advanced weapons become useless?" "Yes, sir. We've already tested it. A simple electromagnetic pulse took down 3 crystalline ships because it severed their connection to the processing network." The transmission cut out as the Damascus was finally overwhelmed. But Rodriguez had given humanity something invaluable, the aliens' greatest weakness. Their technology was so advanced that individual ships couldn't operate it independently. On Earth, President Sarah Kim stood before the United Nations Emergency Assembly, addressing not just world leaders but every human being connected to the global communication network. Behind her, displays showed the brutal reality of the war. Colonies burning, ships dying in the void, entire star systems going dark. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the crisis. 72 hours ago, our galaxy decided that humanity needed to die. They united every major power, assembled fleets that dwarf our entire navy, and launched a coordinated attack designed to wipe us from existence." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "They made one critical mistake. They assumed we would fight like them." On screens across human space, President Kim's image was broadcast to mining colonies, research stations, and warships locked in desperate battle. "For 3 days we have shown the galaxy something they have never seen, a species that refuses to surrender. We have lost battles, yes. We have lost ships, stations, even entire colonies. But we have not lost hope." Images flashed on the screen behind her. The Damascus's final attack run, Elena Vasquez's sacrifice on Titan Station, the miners on Vega's world choosing to die rather than surrender. Each loss has taught us something new about our enemies. Each defeat has made us stronger. Dr. James Foster, head of the Human Defense Initiative's Tactical Analysis Division, stood up from his seat in the assembly hall. "Madam President, I have an update from our research teams. We've analyzed the wreckage from over 40 alien ships, and we've found something remarkable." President Kim nodded for him to continue. "Their technology is based on absolute perfection. Every system is designed to work flawlessly in optimal conditions. They've removed all redundancy, all backup systems, because they've never needed them. A single point of failure can bring down their most advanced ships." Foster activated his personal display, showing a schematic of a crystalline collective cruiser. "But human technology is different. We build in redundancy because we expect things to break. We design systems that can fail safely, because we know nothing works perfectly forever. The galaxy sees this as primitive, but it's actually our greatest advantage." President Kim smiled for the first time since the war began. "Dr. Foster, how long before we can implement this knowledge across our fleet?" "With Dr. Vasquez's FTL communication system, we can distribute new tactical protocols to every human ship within hours. But, Madam President, we need to be prepared for the next phase of their assault. Intelligence suggests they're preparing something called the Final Protocol." The mood in the assembly hall darkened. Everyone had heard rumors about the Final Protocol, a weapon system so devastating that it could sterilize entire star systems. If the aliens couldn't defeat humanity through conventional warfare, They were prepared to commit genocide on a scale never before seen in galactic history. High Admiral Chen, promoted after the loss of 3 other fleet commanders, stepped forward. Madam President, our remaining forces are ready to implement Operation Endgame. Operation Endgame was humanity's desperate gambit. A coordinated strike on the alien coalition's command structure, using everything they had learned about their enemy's weaknesses. It was a plan born of desperation, but it was also something uniquely human in its scope and audacity. Meanwhile, in a secret facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Yuki Tanaka put the finishing touches on humanity's most desperate creation, the Genesis device. If the aliens truly intended to wipe out humanity, then humanity would ensure that their sacrifice served a greater purpose. The Genesis device could terraform dead worlds, create life from nothing, and spread humanity's biological and cultural legacy across the galaxy. Dr. Tanaka, are you certain this will work? Asked her assistant, Dr. Patel. It will work, Tanaka replied confidently. The aliens want to erase us from existence. But even if they succeed, this device will ensure that humanity's children inherit the galaxy long after we're gone. They think they're fighting to preserve the old order. They don't realize they've already lost. The device hummed with contained energy, ready to seed 1,000 worlds with human DNA and digital archives containing the entirety of human knowledge and culture. If humanity fell, they would rise again 1,000,000 years later as the inheritors of every world the aliens had fought to protect. Above Earth, the largest alien fleet ever assembled was preparing to jump into the system. Over 10,000 ships representing every major power in the galaxy, armed with weapons that could crack planets and reshape reality itself. They came seeking the final destruction of humanity, confident that sheer overwhelming force would end the war quickly. They had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or tactics. It was the simple, stubborn refusal to accept defeat, no matter how hopeless the situation became. And in the depths of space, human ships were moving toward targets the aliens didn't even know they needed to protect. Captain Sarah Chen piloted the modified freighter Defiance Edge through the asteroid field of the Kepler system, her crew of volunteers preparing for what would likely be their final mission. The ship had been retrofitted with every piece of experimental technology humanity could produce in 4 days. Stealth fields borrowed from Zephyrian wreckage, weapons that fired concentrated electromagnetic pulses, and a cargo bay full of the deadliest surprise the galaxy had ever seen. Captain, we're picking up massive energy signatures from the Nexus, reported her new tactical officer, Lieutenant Park. The alien coalition's main communication hub is exactly where intelligence said it would be. The Nexus was a massive space station positioned at this gravitational balance point between 3 star systems. It served as the alien's central command post, coordinating the movements of over 50,000 ships across human space. More importantly, it housed the quantum processors that enabled their most advanced weapons to function. How many ships are guarding it? Chen asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. Sensor readings show at least 200 vessels, Captain. Every major species is represented. If we're detected, we won't last 30 seconds. Chen looked around at her crew. They were all volunteers, people who had lost family and friends in the first 4 days of the war. They knew this was a one-way mission, but they had volunteered anyway because it might give humanity a chance to survive. Then we better not get detected. Torres, take us in using the shadow of that gas giant. We have one shot at this. Light years away, Admiral Webb coordinated the most desperate military operation in human history. Using Dr. Vasquez's FTL communication system, he was simultaneously directing attacks on 17 different targets across the galaxy. Each strike force was equipped with captured alien technology, modified with human engineering principles that prioritize reliability over elegance. Admiral, Strike Team 7 reports they've successfully infiltrated the Zephyrian shipyards at Rigel, Lieutenant Foster announced. They're preparing to implement the Prometheus Protocol. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's answer to superior alien technology. If they couldn't build better weapons, they would steal the aliens' own manufacturing facilities and turn them against their creators. Human engineers had spent 4 sleepless days learning to operate Zephyrian construction systems, preparing to build a fleet of hybrid ships that combined human ingenuity with alien capabilities. What about the other teams? Strike Team 3 has successfully deployed the Genesis seeds on 12 uninhabited worlds in crystalline space. Strike Team 11 is in position to disrupt the Void Hunter hive mind network. All teams report ready for simultaneous execution. Webb nodded grimly. Operation Endgame was the largest coordinated military action humanity had ever attempted. If it failed, the alien coalition would complete their final protocol and sterilize every human world in the galaxy. If it succeeded, it would buy humanity time to develop new weapons and strategies. All teams execute on my mark. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that will come after us. Every civilization that will face this same choice between submission and extinction. On Earth, President Kim stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, watching real-time updates from battles occurring across the galaxy. The room was filled with military leaders, scientists, and diplomats, all working frantically to coordinate humanity's response to the largest military crisis in their history. Madam President, we're receiving disturbing intelligence from our deep cover assets, reported CIA Director Morrison. The alien coalition isn't just planning to destroy our military forces. They're preparing to glass every planet we've ever settled, including Earth itself. The room fell silent. Everyone had known the aliens intended to wipe out humanity, but the scale of their planned genocide was still shocking. How long do we have? Kim asked. Their final protocol weapons will be in position within 18 hours. Each one is capable of sterilizing an entire star system by destabilizing local stellar activity. Dr. Foster stepped forward from his position at the science station. Madam President, there is one possibility we haven't discussed. The Lazarus Protocol. Kim's face paled. The Lazarus Protocol was theoretical weaponry that could turn stars into weapons, but it would require sacrificing human colonies to power the reaction. It was genocide to prevent genocide. Absolutely not. We don't save humanity by becoming monsters. Ma'am, with respect, we may not have a choice. If the aliens succeed in implementing their final protocol, billions of humans die anyway. At least this way, some of us survive. Before Kim could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. On the main screen, satellite feeds showed massive alien ships dropping out of hyperspace throughout the solar system. The final protocol had begun ahead of schedule. All planetary defenses, engage immediately, Kim ordered. Every ship, every weapon, everything we have. Make them pay for every inch. Captain Chen watched through the viewports of the Defiance Edge as her ship drifted silently toward the Nexus. The massive station was a work of art. Crystalline spires and bioorganic growths spiraling around a central core that pulsed with exotic energy. It was beautiful, alien, and completely impossible by human understanding of physics. Captain, we're within deployment range, whispered Lieutenant Park. Chen nodded. Activating the cargo bay release mechanism. Deploy the package. The cargo bay opened, releasing what appeared to be space debris and derelict human equipment. But hidden within the junk was humanity's most diabolical creation. Self-replicating nanobots programmed to infiltrate alien computer systems and replace their perfect, elegant code with deliberately inefficient human programming. The nanobots had been designed by Dr. Kim's team using a simple principle. Alien technology worked too well. It was optimized for perfection, with no tolerance for errors or unexpected conditions. Human technology, by contrast, was designed to work despite constant failures, modifications, and abuse. As the nanobots began infiltrating the Nexus's systems, alien perfection became alien nightmare. Weapons that had never missed suddenly couldn't hit targets. Ships that had operated flawlessly for centuries began experiencing cascade failures. The quantum processors that enabled reality warping technology started producing random results instead of precise calculations. Captain, we're seeing massive system failures across their entire network, Park reported with amazement. Their most advanced ships are going dark, but their success came with a price. The Nexus's automated defenses had finally detected the Defiance Edge. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids converged on their position. All hands, brace for impact, Chen announced calmly. It's been an honor serving with you. The Defiance Edge died in a brilliant explosion that lit up the asteroid field like a new star. But its sacrifice ensured that the alien coalition's most advanced weapons would be offline for crucial hours, giving humanity's other strike teams the opening they needed. Across the galaxy, human forces struck simultaneously at targets the aliens had never thought to defend. Shipyards fell to human infiltrators who turned construction facilities against their builders. Communication relays were destroyed by ships that had been written off as space junk. Supply convoys found themselves under attack by human forces that appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The aliens had expected to fight a conventional war against an inferior species. Instead, they found themselves fighting something they had never encountered. A species that treated war not as a civilized endeavor with rules and limitations, but as a desperate struggle for survival where any tactic was acceptable if it kept your people alive another day. High above Earth, Admiral Zhang commanded the last integrated defense fleet from the bridge of the battleship Indomitable. His ships were outnumbered 50-1, but they had one advantage the aliens couldn't match. They had nothing left to lose. All ships, attack pattern Delta 7. We're going to ram their capital ships. It was a tactic no civilized species would ever consider, deliberately sacrificing ships to destroy larger enemy vessels. But humans had been doing exactly that for their entire military history. From kamikaze pilots to space marines who held positions until ammunition ran out. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had survived every extinction event their planet had thrown at them, why they had climbed from caves to stars despite every obstacle the universe could devise. They were about to discover what happened when you tried to destroy something that absolutely refused to die. The alien coalition leadership gathered in emergency session aboard the massive command vessel Eternal Dominion, floating in the void between galaxies where no human weapon could reach them. High Admiral Zextharian of the Crystalline Collective found himself facing something unprecedented in his 3,000 years of military service, an enemy that was winning through sheer refusal to lose. Explain to me how a species we outnumber 1,000-1 has managed to destroy 17% of our combined fleet, Zextharian demanded, his crystalline form flickering with frustrated energy. Grand Admiral Vorthak of the Zephyrian Empire, a massive reptilian creature whose ancestors had conquered hundreds of worlds, shifted uncomfortably in his command throne. Their tactics are completely illogical. They sacrifice entire ships to destroy single weapons platforms. They contaminate their own worlds rather than surrender them intact. They fight like beings who have never learned the proper rules of warfare. Because they haven't, interjected Hive Mind Coordinator Nexus Prime of the Void Hunters, its biomechanical voice resonating through neural implants. Analysis of human historical records indicates their species has been in a state of continuous warfare for their entire evolution. They possess no concept of civilized conflict resolution. The assembled alien commanders contemplated this disturbing revelation. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved past their violent phase before developing interstellar travel. The concept of a species that carried their warlike nature to the stars was genuinely alien to them. Their latest attack on the Rigel shipyards demonstrates something even more troubling, continued Nexus Prime. They are adapting our technology faster than our scientists believed possible. Human-modified Zephyrian vessels are now attacking our own positions using tactics we cannot predict. Admiral Kethmore of the Hegemony, whose people had maintained galactic peace for 5 millennia, stood and activated a holographic display. Observe. This is tactical data from the Battle of Kepler Station. Human forces deliberately triggered a cascade failure in their own fusion reactors to destroy our boarding parties. The explosion also destabilized local spacetime, creating a gravitational anomaly that consumed 3 of our cruisers. The display showed the spectacular destruction in slow motion. Human defenders choosing death over surrender, taking their enemies with them in a blast that violated several fundamental principles of civilized warfare. They weaponized their own defeat, Zextharian observed with something approaching admiration. No species in galactic history has ever deliberately destroyed strategic assets to deny them to an occupying force. Meanwhile, deep in the Andromeda Galaxy, the ancient observers watched the conflict with growing interest. These beings had existed since the universe was young, cataloging the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had seen species evolve, expand, and eventually join the galactic community after abandoning their primitive, violent instincts. Observer Prime, an entity of pure thought given form, communicated with its companions through quantum-level consciousness sharing. The humans represent something we have not encountered in 67 million years of observation. They appear to be a species that has achieved interstellar technology without evolving past their aggressive phase. Should we intervene? Asked Observer Secondary. Negative. This conflict will resolve the question of whether advanced technology requires the abandonment of survival instincts. The outcome will be educational. Back in human space, Dr. Yuki Tanaka made final adjustments to the Genesis device as alien ships began bombarding Earth's outer defenses. The device could now seed 50,000 worlds with human DNA and cultural archives, ensuring that even if humanity died, they would rise again across the galaxy. Dr. Tanaka, incoming message from the International Space Station, announced her assistant, Dr. Patel. The transmission showed Commander Lisa Park, the ISS's military liaison officer, floating in the station's command module as explosions lit up the space around Earth. Doctor, we're beginning atmospheric entry procedures for critical personnel evacuation. You need to get to a transport immediately. Tanaka shook her head. I'm not leaving. If the Genesis device malfunctions during the final phase, humanity's backup plan dies with it. Someone has to ensure it works. Ma'am, we can't spare anyone else to operate the device. Then I'll operate it. Dr. Patel, evacuate with the others. If this works, make sure future generations know we tried everything we could to survive. As her staff reluctantly evacuated, Tanaka began the final activation sequence. If humanity fell today, their children would inherit the galaxy 1,000,000 years from now, carrying forward everything that made humans unique in a universe that seemed determined to eliminate uniqueness entirely. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Zhang watched his fleet's desperate last stand against the alien armada. Earth's defenses were failing, but they were making the enemy pay dearly for every victory. Human ships rammed alien vessels in kamikaze attacks that left both sides devastated. Space stations self-destructed rather than surrender, taking entire enemy squadrons with them. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet, reported Communications Officer Chen. The screen displayed High Admiral Zextharian, his crystalline features showing something that might have been respect. Admiral Zhang, your species has fought with courage that honors you. Surrender now, and I will ensure your people die quickly and without suffering. Zhang laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Admiral, you clearly don't understand humans very well. We don't surrender. We don't give up. We fight until there's nothing left to fight with, and then we fight with what's left. Your defiance serves no logical purpose. You cannot win this conflict, maybe not, but we can make you remember us. Every time you look at the stars, you'll know that somewhere out there, a species existed that refused to kneel. That's victory enough for us. The transmission ended and Zhang turned to his crew. All remaining ships implement Protocol Omega. We're going to ram their command vessel. Protocol Omega was humanity's final tactical doctrine. When all else failed, turn yourself into a weapon. The Indomitable and the last 12 ships of Earth's defense fleet accelerated toward the alien command vessel, their crews singing the ancient battle hymns of a dozen different cultures. But as they approached their target, something unexpected happened. The alien fleet began to withdraw. Admiral, they're pulling back, shouted Lieutenant Foster. All alien ships are disengaging and retreating to the edge of the system. Zhang stared in disbelief at the tactical display. The aliens had been winning. Earth's defenses were shattered, its cities burning, its fleet reduced to a handful of damaged ships. Victory had been within their grasp, sir. Incoming priority transmission from Luna Base. Admiral Webb's face appeared on the screen, grinning despite the exhaustion and smoke stains that covered his uniform. Zhang, our strike teams have succeeded. Captain Chen's nanobots didn't just disrupt their weapon systems. They've infected their entire communication network. The alien coalition can't coordinate between species anymore. The implications hit Zhang immediately. Without coordination, the alien coalition wasn't a united force anymore. They were dozens of individual fleets, each fighting according to their own tactical doctrines, unable to work together effectively. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy discharges throughout the alien fleet, reported the sensor officer. It looks like they're fighting each other. Zhang watched in amazement as the most powerful military alliance in galactic history tore itself apart. Crystalline ships fired reality-warping weapons at Zephyrian dreadnoughts. Void Hunter bioships attacked hegemony peacekeepers. The coalition that had united to destroy humanity was consuming itself in friendly fire and miscommunication. Sir, incoming transmission from President Kim. The president appeared on screen. standing in the ruins of the White House Situation Room but smiling with quiet satisfaction. Admiral Zhang, I'm pleased to inform you that as of this moment, the Alien Coalition's final protocol has been terminated. Their fleet commanders are too busy fighting each other to coordinate the destruction of our worlds. Zhang looked out at the chaos consuming the alien armada and realized something profound. Humanity hadn't won through superior technology or numbers. They had won by being so completely alien to the galaxy's way of thinking that their enemies couldn't adapt quickly enough to counter them. The war wasn't over. There were still alien fleets scattered across human space, still worlds under bombardment, still battles to be fought. But for the first time since the conflict began, humanity had something they hadn't possessed before: hope. 6 months after the galaxy declared war on humanity, Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the halls of New Geneva Station, humanity's first diplomatic outpost in neutral space. The station had been built from captured alien technology, retrofitted with human engineering principles that prioritized functionality over elegance. It was a perfect symbol of what humanity had become, a species that took the best the galaxy had to offer and made it work better. The war had ended not with humanity's extinction, but with something unprecedented in galactic history: a complete restructuring of interstellar civilization. The Alien Coalition had collapsed when their inability to coordinate led to a three-way conflict between former allies. The Crystalline Collective and Zephyrian Empire had nearly destroyed each other, fighting over the ruins of the hegemony's territories. Ambassador, the first delegation has arrived, announced her aide, Dr. James Kim. High Admiral Zextharian requests permission to come aboard. Elena nodded, smoothing her diplomatic uniform. Today would mark the beginning of humanity's integration into galactic civilization, but on their own terms. The species that had tried to destroy them now sought alliance with the beings they had underestimated so catastrophically. The airlock hissed open, and High Admiral Zextharian entered, his crystalline form somehow less imposing than it had appeared on the battlefield. Behind him came a delegation of beings representing every major power in the galaxy: Zephyrian military leaders, Void Hunter hive mind coordinators, hegemony peacekeepers, and dozens of other species. Ambassador Vasquez, Zextharian began, his harmonic voice carefully modulated for human hearing. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I come to formally request humanity's membership in our governing body. Elena smiled, remembering her sister Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose sacrifice had made this moment possible. Admiral, 6 months ago your species tried to exterminate us. Now you want us as partners? What changed? Everything, replied Grand Admiral Vorthak of the Zephyrian Empire, his massive reptilian form dwarfing the humans around him. We believed we understood warfare, believed we understood what it meant to fight for survival. Your species taught us that we had forgotten the most fundamental truth of existence. Adaptation is survival. Dr. Nexus Prime of the Void Hunters stepped forward, its biomechanical form shifting as it spoke. Human tactical innovations have revolutionized our understanding of conflict resolution. Your concept of acceptable losses and strategic sacrifice has prevented 3 potential wars since our coalition collapsed. Elena gestured for the delegation to follow her to the station's main conference room. The chamber had been designed using human architectural principles, functional, comfortable, and equipped with multiple escape routes. After facing galactic extinction, humans had developed certain habits about always having backup plans. Before we discuss membership, Elena said as they took their seats around a circular table designed to show no species held dominance, I want to understand why you declared war on us in the first place. What did humanity do that threatened the entire galaxy? Admiral Kethmore of the Hegemony activated a holographic display showing the research data that had triggered the war. Your faster-than-light communication technology represented a fundamental shift in galactic power balance. No species had ever achieved instantaneous coordination across interstellar distances. But that wasn't the real threat, added Zextharian. The real threat was your species' refusal to follow established patterns of technological development. Every other civilization in the galaxy abandoned aggressive behavior before achieving interstellar travel. You carried your survival instincts to the stars. Elena nodded, understanding now why the galaxy had been so afraid. You weren't trying to prevent us from becoming powerful. You were trying to prevent us from changing what power means. Precisely. Your species demonstrated that advanced technology does not require the abandonment of evolutionary survival drives. This challenged our fundamental assumptions about civilization itself. Dr. Kim stepped forward, activating his own display. What the Council didn't realize is that humanity's aggressive tendencies aren't just about warfare. They're about problem-solving, innovation, and adaptation. We don't just fight harder when threatened. We think differently. The holographic display showed human innovations developed during the war, hybrid technology that combined multiple alien systems, tactical doctrines that treated defeat as a learning opportunity, and weapons that turned enemy advantages into weaknesses. Your primitive approach to technology, integration has advanced our scientific understanding by centuries, admitted Dr. Nexus Prime. Human. Engineers routinely achieve results our scientists had deemed impossible, simply because they are willing to accept imperfection as a design parameter. Elena looked around the table at beings who had tried to exterminate her species and now sought to learn from them. What exactly are you proposing? Zextharian leaned forward. Full membership in the Galactic Council, with a permanent seat on the Security Committee. More than that, we want humanity to serve as our strategic advisors for conflict resolution. You want us to teach you how to fight. We want you to teach us how to survive, corrected Admiral Vorthak. The universe is vast and dangerous. There are threats beyond our galaxy that we may someday face. When that time comes, we want allies who understand that survival sometimes requires sacrificing everything you have to preserve what matters most. Elena considered the offer. Humanity had paid a terrible price for their place at this table. Millions dead, entire colonies destroyed, a generation that would grow up knowing they had faced extinction and survived. But they had also proven something important about themselves and their species. There are conditions, she said finally. Name them. First, full reparations for the worlds you destroyed during the war. Human colonies will be rebuilt using the best technology the galaxy can provide. Agreed. Second, technology sharing must be voluntary. No species will be forced to adopt human innovations, and humans won't be forced to abandon their inefficient engineering principles. Acceptable. Third, and this is non-negotiable, humanity reserves the right to defend itself using any means necessary. If the galaxy ever again decides we need to be eliminated, we will respond with everything we have learned about warfare, survival, and making our enemies regret their decisions. The alien delegates exchanged glances. They had seen what humanity could accomplish when facing extinction. The idea of facing them again, but this time prepared and armed with galactic technology, was sobering. Agreed, Zextharian said finally. But in exchange we ask that humanity help us prepare for threats we cannot yet imagine. Elena stood, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Admiral, you spent 6 months trying to destroy us because you were afraid we would change the galaxy. You were right to be afraid. As the formal ceremonies concluded and treaties were signed, Elena received a priority message from Earth. The Genesis device had been successfully tested on 12 dead worlds in the Outer Rim. Each world now hosted thriving ecosystems based on human DNA, ensuring that even if the worst happened, humanity's children would inherit the stars. But more importantly, those worlds served as a message to any future threat. Humanity had learned to think beyond their own lifespans, to plan for contingencies that might not occur for millions of years. They had become something the galaxy had never seen. A species that treated extinction not as an ending, but as a temporary setback. The war was over. But humanity's impact on galactic civilization had just begun. They had proven that survival instincts and advanced technology could coexist, that adaptation was more powerful than perfection, and that sometimes the best way to join a civilization was to first force it to evolve. As the alien delegations departed, Elena looked out at the stars and smiled. 6 months ago, the galaxy had declared war on humanity. Today, they had effectively surrendered to the idea that perhaps the universe needed a species stubborn enough to keep fighting long after any reasonable being would have given up. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to have humans as allies, and somewhere in the deep void between stars, ancient threats that had been content to wait for galactic civilization to weaken with time and complacency suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered. A species that got stronger when cornered, more creative when threatened, and absolutely refused to accept that any problem was impossible to solve. Humanity had kept going when the galaxy declared war. Now they were going to help the galaxy learn to do the same.